in total, mainly to her head.
She was covered in blood. It was a shocking sight.
She'd been battered to death. It looked like there'd maybe been a burglary.
The house had been ransacked.
The fact that this has happened in broad daylight, at a time when people are taking their children to school, it strikes fear throughout everybody.
A lot of people are scared living around here.
You just can't believe that it's happened.
The big fear is that our community is then under threat.
In the heart of the East Midlands lies historic Lincoln.
It's just got a wonderful, timeless feeling to it, Lincoln. We are a place of great historical interest. We got everything, castles, cathedrals. There's a great many medieval churches, and there's a great waterway in the centre as well, the Brayford, established by the Romans. So we are a good tourist destination. And people like the fact we're not overly commercialised. We just think it's a wonderful, vibrant place.
And in recent years, Lincoln has become increasingly popular with overseas students.
The university, which is a huge university and, well, pretty much world famous, they've got colleges as well. Well, there are a lot of students, and a lot of the students are foreign nationals, many from the East Asian area. There is a nice mix.
To the south of Lincoln, on the River Witham, lies the suburb of Sincil Bank.
Sincil Bank area of Lincoln is a very tight-knit community, being adopted by the students and working class Lincoln folk. A stone's throw away from the football ground. It does have a very villagey feel. You will see children playing football in the street.
The Sincil Bank community is very diverse. I've been a resident my whole life, and we have a lot of people that are from different ethnic backgrounds. And because we're so close to the university and stuff, we do get a lot of uni students coming to live down here, especially now that the university is getting more popular. We also have a lot of elderly people, but we always try and find a way to build that community together. It's more like a village. People are always supportive of each other.
It's just a nice, friendly place. Everybody knows everybody on the street and everybody chats with everybody. All the kids play out together. It's got a proper community vibe.
It's very close to the South Common, which is the major green area in the south of Lincoln.
You know, there's a lovely park there where people go and walk their dogs and can go and sit. So you have got the nice, idyllic, peaceful park only a short distance away.
But the peace is shattered on one summer's day. At 12:20 p.m, police are called to an address in Sincil Bank.
When police arrived at the scene, they found a body of a woman that had been badly beaten. She had appeared to have been beaten with a blunt object.
The crime scene is secured.
The police came, they cornered off the streets, they weren't allowed anywhere near your houses and stuff. No one really told us what happened.
A murder investigation is immediately launched, and it's not long before the body is identified as 29-year-old student Mingzi Yang. But who is Mingzi, and how had she become a victim of such a brutal murder?
Mingzi Yang was originally from China. She came to the UK in 2008, and she was studying English at Lincoln College. Initially, she lived in the Humberside area, and in 2012, she moved to the address in Sincil Bank, where she lived with her partner, who she'd met fairly recently, Darren Grundy, and her young 5-year-old son.
Mingzi's son was from a previous relationship, but Darren quickly became part of the family.
As a couple, they were engaged to be married and were due to get married the following year.
But on the 17th of June, Darren had grown increasingly worried throughout the day when Mingzi failed to answer her phone.
He'd gone to work and he'd been trying to get hold of her throughout the day and without any success. So he left work early and made his way to the address.
Darren arrives home and makes a shocking discovery.
He found a scene of devastation, really. It looked like it had been ransacked. It looked like there'd maybe been a burglary. There was a lot of blood in the address, and he discovered Mingzi's body.
And then he raised the alarm and the police were contacted.
As the police begin their investigation, they need to establish what Mingzi's last known movements were on the day of her murder.
Detectives will use a phrase sometimes that says if you find out how a person lived, then you'll find out how they died. It's about building up a detailed picture of that victim, because somewhere in there might just be the answer as to why this has happened and who's committed it. On the morning of the 17th of June, she'd gone and took her young son to the local primary school, which was a very short walk away, and returned to the address.
The killing was believed to have taken place in broad daylight, early in the morning after school, although the body wasn't discovered until Mr. Grundy raised the alarm.
The question is, who could possibly have wanted to harm Mingzi?
First thing that would go through my head is to try and establish exactly what has gone on.
The initial mystery for the police was that the house had been ransacked. There had been a burglary, and that possibly an intruder had killed Mingzi Yang.
News that a possible burglary has turned into a murder sends shockwaves across the local community.
There was fear and a sense of shock, because it's not something that happens with frequency in Lincoln at all. And the big fear is that our community is then under threat.
I remember hearing about it. My mum and my dad told me about it, and it was very upsetting. It's very traumatic knowing that it was basically on your front door. You know, you could go to sleep at night and something bad could happen. This could have been my mum, or this could have been my sister, or this could have been a relative that lives across the road.
Everybody was massively scared of what had happened because it was so close to home. It's 2 minutes away from the pub that I run. So that day, customers were coming in absolutely shocked and stunned with all the police cordons. It just is unheard of around here. You just can't believe that it's happened.
There was a genuine fear from people who lived in the local area that a burglar or intruder was at large and had carried out such a devastating crime in broad daylight. Neighbours were obviously concerned that this could possibly happen to them.
In the Lincoln suburb of Sincil Bank, the community is shocked to hear of the murder of 29-year-old mum Mingzi Yang, who has been beaten to death in her own home in what looks like a robbery gone wrong.
She was a local student. She'd got a child. We just couldn't believe that somebody like her had been killed.
And the fear on the streets is growing.
A lot of people were scared of living around here, knowing that something really bad's happened, and it's on your front door.
The first feeling is one of shock, and then wanting to know really what had happened. Was the public at risk?
When something like this happens in the community, there's a massive impact. There's lots of children and families in this area, so to have something so tragic and awful happening on your doorstep, it strikes fear throughout everybody.
That's all we were talking about. Everybody was just in utter disbelief that something like that could happen so close to home.
And a lot of them will have been friendly with Mingzi Yang in any event, so apart from the personal impact, you really do get a build-up of tension throughout the community. People feel understandably frightened. Who's committed it? Why have they committed it? Are they going to come back and do it again? If it is a burglary, is our house going to be the next target?
With such a brutal murder happening on a busy street, police are taken aback at the boldness of the crime.
Mingzi had a young son who had been dropped off at school, and the killing was believed to have taken place sometime between about 9 and 10 a.m.
The fact that this has happened in broad daylight, at a time when people are taking their children to school, in a place like this, which appears quite peaceful and tranquil, is actually quite shocking.
The idea that an intruder had managed to get into this house unnoticed and carry out this killing was obviously very frightening for local people.
With the attack suspected to have occurred early in the day, police reach out to the locals for any potential information that may lead them to Mingzi's attacker.
You're really looking for witnesses. Something that's happened like that with so many injuries and so much devastation within the house would presumably have made some noise. You know, had she been screaming and shouting for help? Have the neighbours heard or seen anything?
In a case like this, in an area like this, the community are absolutely vital. They are the eyes and ears, and they're going to know things and see things that the police will never get to find out about. So it's really important to get out in amongst the community, make yourself visible and ask those important questions, because just by being here, you may be approached by a member of the public who tells you something that in isolation might seem quite minor, but actually when you put it together as part of a jigsaw puzzle, it could actually help to solve the case.
Local reporter Richard Van Plu is also on the scene.
The first time I became aware of Mingzi's death was when the police put out a press release saying that the body of a woman had been found. Killings like this, obviously in rural areas, don't happen every day, and people are quite rightly shocked. And sometimes when you arrive at the scene, people will talk to you. It's their main way of dealing with what's happened.
But so far, door-to-door inquiries have uncovered no leads to Mingzi's attacker. With the fear in the area growing, forensics arrived to examine the scene.
When I arrived at the scene, it was a shocking sight. Mingzi was face upwards and she was covered in blood. She was in the main living room. There was large, pooled, smeared blood staining on the carpet all around Mingzi's body. There was a white radiator near where Mingzi's body was found, and there was spots of blood spattered onto the white radiator. The smears and pools of blood along the carpet had indicated to me that she'd been assaulted at one end of the room, and she was on the floor crawling towards the kitchen in an attempt to escape. The blood spatters on the radiator and on the adjacent wall indicated that as she was crawling along, she was being hit with a blunt instrument repeatedly.
Post-mortem results then arrive, which further adds to the horrific nature of Mingzi's death.
A post-mortem found Mingzi's injuries were quite severe.
She had numerous injuries, more than 20 in total, mainly to her head. She also had, interestingly enough, some defence wounds, including a fracture to one of her hands, which clearly indicated that she'd been trying to fend the attacker off. But the actual number of injuries and the nature of those injuries were very, very severe, and would only ever have resulted in one thing, which was her death. She'd basically been battered to death.
But as police scour the scene and surrounding areas, there is no sign of the murder weapon.
The weapon used was believed to be a very hard, heavy, blunt object. But interestingly enough, it wasn't recovered from the scene, which suggests that potentially the offender may have possibly brought it with them, but certainly taken it away with them, which does suggest a degree of premeditation and planning and the realization, even in the moment of everything happening, that actually they might have left some evidence on that weapon.
Police start to suspect that their initial theory, that Mingzi disturbed a burglar who then attacked her, could be wrong. This is reinforced when detectives examine Mingzi's possessions.
Burglary is normally where somebody goes in and steals something. Sounds fairly obvious, but that's what happens. So if there were items in that house, such as TVs, electrical goods, jewellery, cash, you would expect someone that's committing a burglary to take those. The fact that items didn't appear to be missing is really important.
And new forensic evidence casts further doubt that Mingzi disturbed a burglary taking place.
The perpetrator had gone upstairs and opened a number of drawers, which made it look like a burglary. However, the intruder had done this after he'd assaulted Mingzi. We know that because Mingzi's blood was on the stairs in the form of footwear marks, and her blood was on the drawers in the form of finger marks, glove marks in blood. In my mind, your average burglar, if they're startled, they're just going to want to get out of the property. They don't want to harm anybody, they just don't want to get caught. Why would a perpetrator repeatedly beat Mingzi and then take the risk of going upstairs to see if they could find something in her bedroom? It just didn't quite add up.
By re-examining the post-mortem results, police suspect this attack may actually have been carried out by someone closer to home.
The nature and the number of injuries and the fact that they were all caused to Mingzi's head area is a suggestion that perhaps this is a little bit more personal. It's almost like a humiliation and perhaps not just a stranger attack or a burglar that's been disturbed.
Considering the nature of Mingzi's injuries, the police would have to consider whether this was an argument that had gone wrong.
In the majority of murder cases, there is some kind of connection between the victim and the offender.
90% of murders are committed by people who know the victim, and normally very closely.
As police begin to suspect that Mingzi could have known her attacker and that whoever it was had a grudge against her, they look to her previous relationships, beginning with her ex-husband, 33-year-old Wei Hong Zhang.
Police contacted Mr. Zhang. He lived in the Grimsby area. He was a chemistry graduate with dual nationality, so he was a Brit as well as Chinese. He had gone through a recent divorce with Mingzi, and they shared a son together.
Police want to know where Zhang was on the day his ex-wife was murdered.
Mr. Zhang was asked to provide a written statement of his movements on the 17th. He disclosed to police that he had taken the day off work.
Zhang's statement explains why he took the day off and outlines a clear alibi for the time Mingzi was murdered.
He had the day off work and he went to Sherwood Pines in the Nottingham area where he went trail biking.
And he could provide car parking tickets and receipts to back this up.
With a solid alibi and evidence to prove it, Zhang is discounted from the inquiries. So police shift their focus elsewhere, and to one person in particular.
The police, they would be examining who Mingzi had spoken to, who were the last people that had seen her. Obviously, in this case, Darren Grundy was virtually living at Mingzi Yang's address.
Darren Grundy would likely to have been the last person to see Mingzi Yang alive. He's the person who's in a current relationship with her. He's the person who discovered the body.
Mingzi Yang's fiancé, Darren Grundy, is taken in for questioning. And it isn't long before the police make an announcement.
Darren Grundy is arrested on suspicion of the murder of Mingzi Yang. He's taken into police custody and the police think that they have their man.
All of Darren's clothing was seized and submitted to the laboratory for examination.
The police were convinced it obviously had the hallmarks of a crime of passion.
It's been 24 hours since the body of 29-year-old student Mingzi Yang was discovered at her home in the Lincoln suburb of Sincil Bank. And police have arrested her fiancé, 32-year-old Darren Grundy, on suspicion of murder.
Darren Grundy was the person that reported her death and was also possibly the last person to see her alive.
He was taken into police custody, during which time he's questioned and the police seek to gather further evidence and information to strengthen their case.
Police believe the attack on Mingzi was carried out by someone who knew her.
Police were convinced that this was a crime of passion. It's not unusual with crimes of passion that the victim is badly beaten. Mingzi had been beaten and sustained over 20 injuries.
The hallmarks of a crime of passion, I would say, are extreme violence, humiliation, degradation, that sort of thing. Doing something that's really personal, so, destroying something that really means a lot to somebody. And often it is extreme, gratuitous violence where there's clearly been some kind of loss of self-control because it's such a personal issue.
Now in police custody, Darren faces intense questioning from detectives.
The interview of a murder suspect is different from the interview of a witness. It's far more detailed. The officers that interview a murder suspect will be specially trained and they use tactics and techniques with the intention of getting as much information as possible. During the interviews, Darren Grundy maintains that he went to work that day and he was trying to get hold of Mingzi Yang during the day. He couldn't get hold of her, so he decided to leave work early, and he came home from work early, and he found her dead in the home.
But police aren't convinced by his account and detain him further.
In order to hold someone in custody for more than 36 hours, the police need to go to a magistrate's court in order to keep that person in custody. So this is a serious situation for Darren Grundy. He's in custody, and obviously the police think that they have their man.
When police receive forensic results from Darren Grundy's clothing, the findings change the course of the investigation.
When we looked at Darren's clothing in the laboratory, there was no blood spattering on there. The blood staining on him was quite minimal, and it's not what Andy would expect from the perpetrator. I would expect to find a lot of small spots of blood on the perpetrator's clothing, especially around his lower legs. If you imagine when Mingzi's moving around the room and she's being constantly struck, the blood is spattering onto that radiator. Those small spots of blood will also spatter back onto the assailant. Didn't see anything like that at all on Darren's clothing.
But then a member of the public comes forward with some information that turns the case on its head.
The Sincil Bank area of Lincoln is a very tight-knit community, and following the news of Mingzi's death, the teenage boy who was in the Sincil Bank area on the morning of Mingzi's murder did come forward. He reported to police that he had seen a cyclist loitering very closely to the back passage of Mingzi's address.
The young boy saw a man on the pedal cycle cycling around this area, and he actually saw him go into an alleyway, which is where the address in question is.
He remembered clearly that cyclist was wearing a blue workman's helmet rather than a cycling helmet. He made eye contact with the cyclist and then watched as he wheeled that bike into Mingzi's passageway.
But who was the cyclist? And could they be responsible for Mingzi's murder? The physical description the boy gives narrows down his identity.
This key witness reported to police the cyclist was also of East Asian appearance. The police now had to explore people who knew Mingzi matching that description.
And at this point, the police become aware that actually they've been looking at the wrong man. And they focus their inquiries in a different direction.
Darren Grundy is released without charge, and attention now falls on an individual from Mingzi's past.
The description of the cyclist matched Mingzi's ex-husband, Mr. Zhang.
Wei Hong Zhang had already provided police with a convincing alibi, saying he was over 40 miles from Mingzi's home on the day of her murder, enjoying a day out biking at Sherwood Pines Forest.
Mr. Zhang has a solid alibi. He'd travelled to Sherwood Pines, where he had spent the day trail biking. So police are then tasked with establishing his movements exactly, and whether it is possible that this cyclist could be Mr. Zhang. In the eyes of the investigation, there is obviously a big difference between police suspecting that this cyclist may be Mr. Zhang and may have committed the murder, but proving it to a jury is obviously a whole different matter.
In an attempt to track down the mysterious individual spotted by a local teenager, police trawl through thousands of hours of CCTV from across Lincoln.
There are so many CCTV cameras now, private, local authority. People have them on their houses as well. It's a real critical part of any murder investigation. The police will be looking at trying to find that person at that location or as close as possible, and then trying to find where they went from there. Where did the cyclist come from? Ideally, what did they do whilst they were in the area, and then where did they go afterwards?
And after hours of rigorous detective work, police finally spot the cyclist.
What it actually showed was that this particular cyclist, who was quite distinctive in description, particularly with a hat that he was wearing, was picked up on 40 separate occasions in 16 different locations in and around the Lincoln City area. The route of the cyclist was quite clear from the footage that he'd come into the city in the early hours of the morning, then made his way out of the city again.
The man is seen cycling away from Lincoln just after 9 a.m., around 3 hours before Mingzi's body was discovered. Detectives analysed the footage to see if the cyclist in question is indeed Mingzi's ex-husband, Wei Hong Zhang.
One of the main difficulties in proving identity of someone on CCTV is the quality of the footage. It's vastly improved since many years ago when it was really poor, but you still do have systems now, for one reason or another, that are not particularly clear. They're grainy. You may struggle to identify someone.
With the identity of the cyclist still unclear from the CCTV footage, police bring Zhang in for questioning.
The police will be looking at his background, his movements, and his relationship, trying to gather as much information. They'll be looking at inconsistencies with his account, and it may be that he can't give certain information. So they'll be trying to build up a case against him using the factual information that they know and anything which can either confirm or disprove his account.
Under caution, Zhang gives the same account he provided in his written statement.
Wei Zhang told the police that he had gone to Sherwood Pines in Nottingham. He'd driven straight there from his home address in Grimsby, and he'd been there for the duration of the day. He was also able to produce some receipts from parking in the Nottingham area and a petrol receipt as well.
Despite Zhang providing receipts to prove his alibi, police attempt to investigate his digital footprint by looking into his phone activity on the day.
He had turned his phone off when he left home, which he said was the usual thing that he would do when he was going trail biking.
So what the police decided to do instead was to examine the sat-nav on his car.
And what officers discover reveals a major hole in Zhang's story.
The inbuilt car sat-nav actually showed that he hadn't gone directly from Grimsby to Nottingham, but he'd driven from Grimsby to Lincoln, where he'd parked in a lay-by for at least 2 hours, and then afterwards had then gone to Nottingham. So there was a huge hole in the alibi.
It's a shocking revelation. Police now know Zhang was parked up in a lay-by on the outskirts of Lincoln on the day of Mingzi's murder. Could it be that Zhang had cycled from this location to Mingzi's home in Sincil Bank? Police look again at the CCTV of the suspicious cyclist.
The analysis of the cyclist and the CCTV showed quite clearly with the times involved that he would have had the opportunity to have parked his vehicle on the outskirts of Lincoln, cycled into Lincoln to Mingzi's address, killed Mingzi, and then cycled back out of the city again, back to his car, and then driven to Sherwood Pines in Nottingham, where he claimed that he'd been all day.
This key CCTV evidence proved Mr. Zhang did have the time available to cycle into Lincoln and murder his ex-wife.
But the CCTV footage is still unable to prove if Wei Hong Zhang was at Mingzi's home on the day of the murder. The only evidence police have is circumstantial and unlikely to hold up in court. But then, forensic results from a search at Zhang's address returned from the lab.
The police submit various items for forensic examination from Wei Zhang. There were items which were actually purchased after he'd separated from Mingzi Yang.
We examined a number of items from him, including a watch. The watch, when you looked at it with a naked eye, it didn't look as though there was anything on it at all. So I think the watch had probably been cleaned. But in the laboratory, once we could look at it, Using a low power microscope, we could manipulate the hinges, the links, and you could see that in between the links there were some small blood stains. Those samples of blood stains were then subject to DNA profiling tests, and the blood was attributable to Mingzi.
As well as the traces of Mingzi's blood found on her ex-husband's watch, further shocking evidence is found on a bicycle belonging to Sang.
The bike that we examined was a different bicycle from the bike in the CCTV, but it was in the car on the day. The initial visual examination of that bicycle, we couldn't find any blood. But once we got it in the laboratory with specialised lighting and the low power microscope, there was a small blood stain that was located on the handlebar. Again, that was subject to DNA profiling test, and that came back blood attributable to Mingzi. So from my examination of these objects, it was obvious that he has tried to cover all of his tracks, and he has done so quite successfully because we've only found these two small blood stains. We examined many other items from that individual and didn't find anything on them. And he's obviously done a good job of covering his tracks, but these minute traces left in these difficult to locate areas is what indicated that he was the perpetrator.
Wei Hong Zhang is charged with the murder of his ex-wife Mingzi Yang.
The police have circumstantial evidence. They have Wei Zhang in Lincoln, in the area at the time of the murder. They have the forensic evidence that links him as well. What they haven't got is a specific motive or a reason why he's committed this awful attack on his ex-wife.
Police obviously believed they had their man, but now they had to prove a motive. Why had Mr. Sang chosen to kill his ex-wife?
33-year-old Wei Hong Zhang has been charged with the murder of his ex-wife, 29-year-old Mingzi Yang, in the Sincil Bank area of Lincoln. Having pleaded not guilty, the case is sent for trial.
Mr. Sang's trial was heard at Lincoln Crown Court, which is a very old courtroom in the grounds of Lincoln Castle. It is all a wood panel building. The judge sits high above the courtroom in a wooden seat. The defendant sits opposite in the dock, and witnesses give evidence to his right. It is a very personal experience for everybody in the room.
As any officer involved in a murder case, you always will feel an amount of apprehension before a murder trial, because no matter how strong the case appears to be, and no matter how happy you are with how the investigation has gathered pace and been concluded at that point, there's always an opportunity and a chance that something could come up during the trial that could change the direction of things. And even if it is a technicality or something that doesn't directly impinge on the actual case itself, sometimes that can be something that influences a jury in a kind of negative way.
As the trial begins, local reporter Richard Van Plu observes Mingzi's alleged killer in the courtroom.
Sang was very composed. He was obviously a very intelligent man and was following the proceedings intently, but showed little emotion.
The prosecution opens their case against Sang.
The prosecution presented a strong case, backed by the CCTV evidence and the sat-nav evidence, but it wasn't an overwhelming case.
The prosecution in the case were looking to show that there was a degree of pre-planning and preparation in this case, the way that Wei Sang had behaved, the fact that he'd lied about where he'd been, that he came to Lincoln in his vehicle, then came on his pedal cycle into the city centre. The fact that there were so many injuries inflicted on Mingzi Yang, it was clearly a personal attack, and it was clearly something that he'd planned, and he'd tried to cover his tracks very carefully.
The pathology evidence presented at trial showed that the injury that most likely killed Mingzi was a brutal wound to the head. but the murder weapon was never recovered, and the prosecution suggested that this meant it was carried out by somebody with premeditation who had taken that weapon away and made sure that it wasn't found.
To the courtroom's surprise, Zhang agrees to give evidence.
As a journalist in the courtroom, you sit in a wood-panelled seat right next to the witness box, where Mr. Zhang gave evidence. And confronted by the evidence from the sat-nav, Zhang gave an account that he did leave his car in the lay-by near Lincoln. This differed from the account that he initially gave the police.
Zhang agrees that yes, he did go to Lincoln, but rather than going into Lincoln City on a push bike, he said that he drove to the outskirts of Lincoln, he parked in a lay-by, and he slept for a couple of hours.
And the reason he gave for not telling the police this during his first account was that he didn't want his new partner to find out that he'd been sleeping.
The prosecution confronts Zhang with the CCTV footage from the day of the murder. They are convinced this is Zhang heading towards Sincil Bank.
Zhang was adamant that the cyclist in the blue work helmet was not him, and that he remained in his car asleep on the outskirts of Lincoln.
Wei Zhang denies being the person on the pedal cycle. He simply says it's not him.
Despite the overwhelming forensic evidence against Zhang, the court are yet to hear a motive behind the killing. But then, details of Mingzi and Zhang's marriage are revealed to the jury.
It's revealed that there was a history of coercion and abuse from Wei Zhang against Mingzi Yang. It's been going on for some time before they actually divorced. Domestic abuse is very rarely isolated. It's something that will often go on perhaps for years. I read a statistic recently that said that there were 50 incidents of domestic abuse that would normally occur before someone calls for help. And the victim will often put up with abuse or coercion for a long period of time before they eventually come to the point where they actually ask for help. Mingzi Yang had actually reported previous incidents of domestic abuse to Humberside Police on 3 separate occasions before she moved to Lincoln, and actually before Darren Grundy had come onto the scene.
In 2012, Mingzi divorced from Zhang and moved to Lincoln to start a new life for herself. The pair then only saw each other when handing over their son to one another as part of an arrangement made by the court. The abuse that she had suffered appeared to have ended. But then, relations with her former husband took a sudden drop.
During the trial, it was established that the divorce between Mingzi and Zhang had not been straightforward. There had been some disagreements over the custody of their son. And obviously, that is something that can raise very high emotions.
Mingzi and Zhang had initially settled on shared custody of their son. But in the lead up to that fateful morning, it appears Mingzi had put in motion plans to end this.
They shared custody, but the prosecution put the motive on the basis that he got a letter a few days before where she wanted more custody of their son.
Wei Zhang had received at least one letter in relation to those custody arrangements, so it's believed that actually Mingzi Yang was looking to see more of her son, and Wei Zhang wasn't happy with that, and this potentially was the reason why he killed her. In my experience, in a case involving children and personal relationships, it can be something on the face of it quite simple, and in isolation, perhaps not as serious, that can send somebody over the edge. Could potentially be a build-up of tension and stress over a period of time, and the person just kind of snaps.
In January 2015, the jury at Lincoln Crown Court returns its verdict. Wei Hong Zhang is found guilty of Mingzi Yang's murder. He is sentenced to a minimum of 28 years in prison.
At the end of the trial, the jury returned a guilty verdict on the charge of murder. They were obviously convinced by the prosecution case and returned an extremely quick verdict for a murder case They took just 2 hours to find Zhang guilty.
Wei Zhang, I would say, was a cold-hearted individual, self-centered, deceitful, and clearly very violent.
But with his cleverly constructed alibi, initially deceiving police, was there a chance that Zhang could have walked away with murder?
This case stands out because the murderer prepared a very clever alibi before carrying out the killing. It is not unusual for people to try and create an alibi after they carry out a murder or a killing. But in my career as a crime reporter, there are probably only 2 or 3 other cases where someone has gone to such great lengths.
He's sat down and thought this through. He's obviously an intelligent person. He's covered his tracks. He just tells me that, yeah, he is that kind of cold, calculated kind of a person.
If it wasn't for the blood on the bike and the watch, although he is on the outskirts of Lincoln, it's not beyond reasonable doubt that a jury could have been convinced that he wasn't the cyclist.
The case really turned on the forensic evidence. You know, he may well have got away with that murder in years gone by, but fortunately with the advances in forensic science and the specialist CCTV that's available and the experts nowadays, he was quite rightly tracked down and sentenced.
If this murder had happened 30 years ago, at the start of my career, it's probably quite unlikely that he would have been convicted.
With Zhang now behind bars, the community reflects on the impact Mingzi's death has had on her family.
It's so traumatic. She was so young and she moved here, she wanted a better life, but she hasn't witnessed a whole life yet.
I think this case is shocking in terms of the level and nature of the injuries. The sentence reflects the seriousness of the offence. Hopefully it may bring some small comfort to Mingzi's family moving forward. But at the end of the day, nothing will bring Mingzi Yang back, and it leaves a young boy growing up without his mother.
It didn't add up. Why would she be gone for so long, and why wouldn't she tell anyone? Maybe she had mental health issues and she'd had enough.
Some people do find they can't cope with the pressures of life and wander off.
The police, they were searching the area with sniffer dogs, police helicopter.
It was much worse than we thought.
And I was like, am I under arrest then?
In the heart of the Kent countryside lies the quaint village of Northbourne.
It's a very picturesque village, very rural setting, close to the coast, and actually a lovely place to be. Lots of nice walks through the fields and woodland nearby.
Everybody knows everybody. There is that sense of community and a sense of it being a safe environment.
We have quite a nice village hall in a pub, surrounded by farmland. It's quite a nice, quiet place to live. Crime is not generally a problem here.
With such a welcoming community, it was the perfect place for Micah Cudworth to set up home.
Micah was born in Poland, but she came to live in Kent, and she came to see Kent as being her home.
She came over presumably to have a better life, to have a new adventure, and settled here and was well known and liked here.
She didn't come to England on her own. She was married before, and she came with the partner that she had at the time. But they separated, and she met Jonathan.
John was obviously a local lad and lived in this area all his life as far as he went to school in the area, joined the military, came out of that eventually and got a job here as a forklift truck driver.
Jonathan is a really sweet kid. He is really gentle, quite quiet, very reserved. And he came from a nice family. They were all good people.
With an opportunity for a second chance at love. In 2013, Micah and Jonathan tied the knot. and she found a safe haven with her new extended family in Kent.
Micah's family still lived in Poland. Her only family in England was actually Jonathan's family. She deemed her friends in England to be her family, so living and remaining here was important to her. She was very involved with his family. They were like one big family, and I think she loved that. I think that's what her intention of coming here. She wanted that family sentiment, and, you know, she got that.
It didn't take long for the happy couple to settle in well to village life.
Mikey was beautiful, funny, fun-loving. She was just a real bright energy. She could make you laugh, make you smile.
They were an ordinary young couple which was missing in the village. So it was nice, it was a pleasure to see them.
Micah and Jonathan were a devoted couple.
As any normal couple would. They'd walk out to the end of the road. Mika would go rushing off wherever it worked. She'd always smile. She'd always, put her hand up. John, I would see occasionally on his way down to the pub, and occasionally on the way back from the pub.
And it wasn't long before Micah took up part-time work, which put her centre stage in the community.
She had a job as a barmaid in a village pub. You know, lots and lots of people would go in that pub. Quite a small size, but with a lovely big garden. And I think in that pub, it's very close-knit, you know, it's very friendly. And to have had very friendly, bubbly and attractive barmaid there, she would have been a very well-known and very well-liked girl.
8 years since her move from Poland, Micah appeared happy with her life in the UK. But she may not have been as content as it seemed.
Kent Police, where's your emergency?
Hiya, who do I report a missing person to?
Who's actually missing?
It's my wife. She came home about 11:30 because she went to meet somebody for a drink. She had a little bit of a row and she stormed off. She hasn't been back since.
So is she vulnerable in any way due to disability, mental health or any other factors?
She has been a bit down lately.
Okay.
Micah had gone out after work and had a drink with a friend. She'd come home late. They'd had an argument. She'd stormed off. The next day, she was still missing. And then the following morning, Jonathan reported her as missing.
Worried about Micah's whereabouts, officers do a quick search of the house for clues. They discover she had taken just a few essentials with her, keys and a handbag. But her car is still in the driveway and her mobile phone is switched off. Concerned about her state of mind, officers speak to villagers for clues.
My neighbour next door to me told me Mika had gone missing. The police came round, explained what they were doing, interviewed us all.
Asking the questions, have you seen anything? Have you heard anything?
But with no information from neighbours, concern grows as to Micah's whereabouts and her state of mind. Kent Police decide to issue a missing persons appeal to the public.
We received a press release from police to say that Micah had gone missing. It's human instinct, so it instantly struck a chord and we thought something's wrong here. It didn't add up. Why would she be gone for so long and why wouldn't she tell anyone? Naturally you think, God, this woman must be so unwell. Maybe she had mental health issues and she kind of like had enough and left the house in the middle of the night. It was sad.
Kent Police, where's your emergency?
Hiya, who do I report a missing person to?
Who's actually missing?
In the quaint village of Northbourne, unease is growing over Micah Cudworth's whereabouts. She's been missing for more than 24 hours.
In the village, there was a real concern as to where Micah might be.
From our point of view, it was a case each day we wanted to know where was Micah, had she been found.
Concerned about her state of mind, her loving husband Jonathan has reported her missing. Worried that her low mood had led her to look for comfort outside of the family home.
So is she vulnerable in any way?
No, but she has been a bit down lately.
Okay.
You don't know, but it wouldn't be unusual. It could be some form of mental illness. Some people can't cope with the normal pressures of life and wander off.
Life gets difficult and life gets tough, which it does for all of us. And we all face challenging circumstances in our lives.
Having walked out in the middle of the night after an argument, the village can't imagine what's going through her husband's mind.
I actually reached out to John and said, hey, this is really terrible. And I remember saying to him, just hang on it, hopefully she's going to find her and she'll get the help that she needs.
After 24 hours with no contact from Micah, and with no clues to her whereabouts, police start considering the possibility she could have harmed herself, or met someone out to cause her harm. A full-scale search is launched.
Suddenly, lots of police vans turn up. From seeing no police cars or hardly any police cars to being descended on by police was a little bit of a shock.
The police, they were searching the area nearby. That was with sniffer dogs, police helicopter.
You bring in resources, dogs, police dogs, searching fields, especially in the rural area of East Kent, there's a vast amount of agriculture. You might get the helicopter camera up with the infrared to see if you can find someone in the field somewhere still alive.
Police continue to scour the surrounding areas and question Micah's family and friends. But it appears after walking out into the night, she simply disappeared.
Generally speaking, most missing persons turn up very shortly, certainly within, if not 24 hours sooner. This was then 30 odd hours. And then, of course, 36, 48 hours. And you always live in hope. But of course, the longer it goes on, you always fear the worst.
As the days pass, husband Jonathan and the rest of the family desperately cling on for any hope that Micah will be found safe and well.
I was devastated for him. I felt for him, I felt for his family. I just wanted to help them, support them.
We responded as best we could and the church was open. We had a small little area as a place where people could come for prayer and reflection.
As the local search fails to uncover any clue as to where Micah has gone, detectives decide to increase the media campaign with the hope of reaching out nationally and internationally.
Police are urging anyone who may have seen Micah Cudworth to contact them. The barmaid walked out of her home just before midnight on Tuesday and hasn't been seen since. Polish-born Micah from Northbourne was last seen wearing white trainers, grey tracksuit bottoms and carrying a black handbag.
When the police released her photograph, that's when the public interest really did peak. She looked like a bubbly, happy, kind and well-liked person. So the public interest really did come alive. There was a lot of talk on social media. You can imagine when you live in these little villages, somebody goes missing and the local newspaper saying, have you seen this person? It was everywhere.
Media campaigns are important, and very often by media campaigns and using the local media especially, you get sightings. Trouble with sightings is you can very often get people ringing in with genuine callers who believe they've seen perhaps the missing person when in fact it's not them at all. So you have to be careful that you're not taken down blind alleys.
And the longer Micah remains missing, the more rumours start to circulate throughout the village.
I think Micah, in the crudest sense, ticked a lot of boxes. As a barmaid, she would have been very popular. She was pretty attractive and supposedly quite bubbly. So she will have been very liked.
Rumours are rife, and particularly in a village. People start talking, you know, she was a little bit too fond of a customer down at the pub. She was very friendly with certain individuals, and one man in particular. And it was suspected by some people that she was having an affair.
Could Micah be with this man? Had she walked out into the arms of a new lover? Suddenly, there's hope this could be the case. A post from Micah appears on social media, written in Polish.
Micah's friends had received Facebook messages from Micah saying, "It's okay, I'm all right, I just need some space." But that hope was soon dashed when the friends had spoken to police to say that the messages they'd received weren't quite grammatically correct.
Some of her friends were questioning the grammatical use of Polish. It wasn't her usual way of speaking, as it were, on messages.
They couldn't see that Micah would have written them like that, and something just wasn't adding up.
Clearly, if she was sending these messages out, they weren't being sent by her.
But if it isn't her, then who is writing these messages? Detective suspicion that something sinister has happened to Micah grows. And they widen their inquiries and home in on certain people.
The persons of interest would have been the man from the pub who was allegedly having an affair with her, and indeed any other customers that would be regular customers in the pub, because if she's having an affair with somebody, there'll be other customers in the pub who will be able perhaps to provide some significant information with regard to their friendship.
Police trace the man Micah is suspected of having an affair with. He admits he had a drink with Micah on the night of her disappearance. He is questioned. Concerned by the latest development, Micah and Jonathan's friends and family rally round him.
Jonathan had called some friends and asked them to come round and give him support. They came round and they spent time with him.
4 days after Micah was reported missing, Kent police make a shocking announcement.
Police investigating the disappearance of 36-year-old Micah Cudworth have said they've made an arrest. The barmaid from Northbourne went missing 5 days ago and hasn't been sighted since. Police say they are growing increasingly concerned for Miss Cudworth's safety.
What's transpired, it was, yes, much worse than we thought.
Kent Police, where's your emergency?
It's my wife. She walked out early hours Wednesday morning. She's been back since.
In the Kent village of Northbourne, police investigating the disappearance of barmaid Micah Cudworth now suspect she may have been murdered. Believing messages Micah sent her friends after she went missing were actually sent by someone else, police question a man she was suspected of having an affair with.
The police released a statement to say that they'd arrested somebody, a man, in connection with Micah's disappearance.
But the man they arrested is not her suspected lover, but her husband, Jonathan Cudworth.
One of John's sisters said he'd been arrested, and I was like, what?
The news sends shockwaves across the village. How could this loving husband have anything to do with her disappearance?
It's hard to describe, really. It's just a lot of disbelief, I think. The initial reaction for people in the immediate vicinity would be shock, surprise, nice couple.
When somebody's been arrested in connection with someone's disappearance, the public interest really does step up. That's what people then really start to talk about at the school gates, in the pub.
As rumours circulate around the village, it is revealed that Jonathan has been arrested on suspicion of GBH after police visited his house and noticed drops of blood by the front door, with Jonathan admitting that he had a minor altercation before Micah stormed off. Officers secure the house as a potential crime scene and carry out a search of an outbuilding.
And it was outside by the shed that they found some drops of blood.
Inside the outbuilding, officers discover a blood-stained doormat and cat basket. Both items are immediately seized and taken for forensic testing.
I would think that was the time that this became a homicide murder investigation.
Gradually, the realisation came that she may have actually been killed, and the police presence was becoming, in that sense, rather more sinister.
In custody, police believe the evidence points to Jonathan having more than just hit Micah.
During police interviews, he strenuously denied that he had anything to do with Micah's disappearance. Jonathan, he was a nice lad. He wasn't mean. I don't remember him being aggressive or angry or volatile.
Jonathan admits he has Micah's Facebook password and posted messages pretending to be from her in Polish. But he says it was to stop her friends from harassing him. He says the blood found was from a minor altercation. Police decide to charge him with murder. But there's one problem. 7 days since she was last seen, there's still no sign of Micah, dead or alive. Officers widen their search both inside Micah's home and the surrounding areas. And suddenly, there's a breakthrough. A large amount of blood is discovered in the sitting room beneath the rug. And more blood is found in the boot of the family car. Police discover Jonathan had bought the rug in nearby Sandwich after Micah had gone missing. Slowly, they start to piece together Jonathan's movements since Micah's disappearance. The search for her is becoming desperate, and the family turn to their friend Ali.
Ali Austin is a psychic. She was contacted by Jonathan's family and asked if she would be able to help in the search for Micah. So to label myself, I'm a fortune teller. I'm a psychic, I'm a clairvoyant, a clairaudient. I see, hear and sense things. And a message came through, and it was from one of John's sisters. And it said, "Hi Ali, is there any chance you can do a reading for me?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And they were like, "Would you come out and search with us?" And I was like, "Of course I'm going to come out and search with you." And then we went off and we continued to search for 16, 17 hours a day. We have known of a psychic being brought in before to help try to locate a body. The body has never been found, but sometimes that can be of help to the family because they feel that they're getting somebody to help them. When somebody has lost a member of their family, they will cling on to any kind of hope that they might still be alive. I just wanted to help this family. I was just like, these poor people, this is horrific. She needs to be laid to rest. And that was all I focused on.
As Ali joins the search for Micah, along with family and friends, police discover video evidence from the night following Micah's disappearance.
A friend of mine, he had a CCTV, which was pointing out to the road. And I think it was John said he didn't go out of the property on that particular night, but it proved to be just after 2 o'clock, I think, in the morning, there was this car going by.
Detectives believe the 10-minute trip is significant in their hunt for Micah and concentrate their search to a 5-minute drive of the house. Further CCTV from earlier that day also proves key to the case against Jonathan.
There was capture of CCTV images from various areas. which includes him in a shop buying cleaning materials and attending a deal pier, throwing items which turn out, we think, to be her handbag and a phone off the end of the pier.
I think that that's a vital cog that it enabled this investigation to keep on turning and for them to find out what had actually happened.
With police believing the CCTV proves Jonathan is responsible for Micah's disappearance, it also shows he made a trip to a refuse tip with multiple large bags. The search for Micah shifts to a landfill site. As the police search spreads, Ali Austin is concentrating her search in Eastry, where Jonathan grew up.
Quite a few of us were out, and I was like, why don't I try dowsing? Dowsing is a method that has been used for centuries to find objects. Even when I say it, it sounds ridiculous, but we had nothing to lose. I was exhausted. We were in a field, and there was me and Jonathan's sisters, and I used this ring. So I took this ring, and you hold it. So we had this map, and I just got everyone to close their eyes and concentrate, and I was like, just say, Micah, like, where are you? So we were sitting there, and I'll be honest, even I'm like, this is ridiculous, you know, this is ridiculous. And the ring stopped on a point on the map, on a roundabout.
Ali and the family make their way to the roundabout and immediately begin to comb the surrounding fields.
I just remember pulling up, and I ran off away from my car, and it was a rape field, and it was like 5 foot high, and you can't move. I've never been in a rape field, you can't move in that stuff, it's all intertwined. And I remember like literally being like this in the field, running like in a zigzag. And then the next thing I know, I was standing on her. And she was in the field. So when I found her, I just remember screaming to everybody. I found her and told everybody not to move and not to come. But that was the point that her body had been abandoned, yes. And this is where we waited, and obviously it was, at that point, it was a crime scene. I didn't even think about what would happen if I did actually find her. I never gave that a thought. But then when I'm standing there, looking at her, 12 days after her life was taken, I can never unsee that.
Kent police have said that the body of a woman found in a field near Eastry in Kent is that of missing 36-year-old Micah Cudworth.
The news that everyone feared has now become a reality.
There was a real sense of grief and loss. For that to happen was, really quite shocking for people and disturbing. It's a sort of incident you would more likely expect to happen in a big city.
It's a sad thing more than anything else. And Micah was suddenly not being here anymore. It was upsetting, and there is a certain disbelief with that. When you lose anybody in a community, it's tragic, very tragic.
Micah's body is taken to the mortuary, where a post-mortem is carried out to determine a cause of death.
The post-mortem reveals Micah was stabbed, 4 times. It would appear she lost half the blood in her body. The injuries she sustained as a result of those stab wounds were clearly fatal.
With Jonathan already in custody, detectives turn their attention to the circumstances surrounding the discovery of Micah's body. and specifically Ali Austin's involvement.
This psychic comes into the frame. Used to go to school, I think, with Cudworth. She practices her psychic medium, and apparently, as a result of some readings that she's done, she finds the body before the police. It's bizarre, absolutely bizarre. I would certainly be having the lady in for questioning.
Suddenly, Ali Austin finds herself at the centre of a murder investigation.
I was told to present myself at Folkestone Police Station, and I rode to Folkestone Police Station on my motorbike the next morning, and I was showed to a room, and there was 2 or 3 kind of like detectives there, and the next thing I know, they brought all these maps out, and they're going to me, put a black cross where your mum and dad's house is. So I was like, okay. So I looked at this massive aerial map, I put a black cross where my mum and dad's. They went and put a black cross where Jonathan Cudworth's mum and dad's house is. So I put a black cross where they live, put a black cross where you found Micah. So I did that. And I remember at that point, something in my head going, this isn't right. This is not why are you asking me this? This is ridiculous. And then I asked for a break, and I went to get my cigarettes from my crash helmet, and they went, leave your helmet here. And I was like, pardon? And they were like, can you leave your helmet, please? And I was like, why, am I under arrest then? And they were like, no, but you're not allowed to leave.
Ali Austin's involvement sparks a lot of interest from the national media.
It had all of the ingredients for a juicy murder story. The first thing you think is, the husband's done it. But then, you know, a psychic sniffs out a body. That is the sort of thing that, whether people believe it or not, you know, they're interested in it and they want to read, they want to find out everything. It refreshed the story.
But Ali's potential involvement is soon eclipsed following a revelation that on the night of the 10th of May, Jonathan had called a family member from prison and made a startling admission.
He admitted to the crime, the killing.
During the call, Jonathan disclosed the area where he dumped Micah's body. Using this vital info, his family had then turned to Ali to help pinpoint the exact spot. Following this revelation, the police are happy she played no other part.
I do believe I was a suspect. I'm like, you know, local psychic. Maybe I put her there and then wanted the glory of like, I found a body. Morally, like that just rips my soul to pieces to think that at some point in a police interview room or a police station somewhere, I genuinely believe that I might have played a part in putting that woman there. But they don't know me. There was a lot of coincidences. You know, I can't deny that.
With Micah's body discovered and Jonathan charged, the question remains, why did this loving husband murder his wife? And how? Jonathan Cudworth has been charged with the murder of his wife, Micah. Despite the evidence against him, Jonathan pleads not guilty to murder. He claims diminished responsibility because of a momentary loss of control, and the case is sent for trial.
Having admitted to the killing and even charged with murder, it's then, of course, up to a judge and a jury, isn't it? That's all the police can do, is put forward the facts, the evidence that they can obtain, and any explanation that the defendant may give.
On the 7th December 2015, the trial begins at Canterbury Crown Court. And the question on everyone's lips is, what could have possibly led to Jonathan losing control and killing his wife, Micah?
John had a trust issues. You know, he didn't trust Micah. He thought Micah was having an affair.
My neighbour, said that there was problems, probably with their marriage. He'd heard them arguing. She met somebody else, which was one of the reasons for the domestics.
So police found that Jonathan had been tracking Micah's whereabouts through a phone app, which suggests that he had a growing sense of paranoia about where she was, what she was doing, and who she was spending time with.
The court hears what Micah and Jonathan had been arguing about the night she was killed.
Jonathan had been questioning Micah about where she'd been and who she'd been with. And he lashed out in a jealous rage.
The jury hears Jonathan's prepared statement, claiming that Micah had admitted to an affair and was goading him aggressively. The defense being that he momentarily lost control.
Jonathan said that Micah had become aggressive, and he, as a reaction, had felt around for the weapon, and he'd hit her. This was some tragic crime of passion, that he was actually the victim of this really strong-willed woman that was having an affair. They rowed, he's gone mad, and he's put a knife in her.
The court is stunned to hear Jonathan's version of events. But had he really killed her in a moment of madness?
Crimes of passion, of course they can occur, you know. None of us can say we haven't got it in us. There's people, you know, they might do something in the heat of the moment and regret it. Oh, no, and go, oh my God, you know, this has happened. It could happen to a lot of people in all different scenarios.
However, details from the post-mortem are read out in court, which questions Jonathan's defence, that he simply lashed out. Not only had Micah suffered a blunt force hit to the head, but she had bruises to her wrists and neck, along with a knife attack that the prosecution claim intended to end her life.
I realised that a crime of passion, a mistake, is maybe lashing out, pushing, shoving. You know, maybe he was cutting apples at the time, maybe he did have a knife in his hand. But she was stabbed 4 times. So she's been stabbed through her heart and then continuously stabbed on the upper part of her body, which corresponds with what my eyes saw.
And soon it becomes clear that Jonathan has a checkered history with relationships.
Police subsequently found out that there was a loose history of domestic violence, which included another ex-girlfriend and Micah herself.
The court hears there had been one prior report to the police of a domestic verbal altercation between Jonathan and Micah.
Micah notified the police that she was a victim of domestic abuse and that she lived in fear of Jonathan. This wasn't a random crime of passion.
It appears Micah and Jonathan's relationship had broken down completely, and she had made plans to leave him.
Since speaking to her family and her friends, she visited Poland 2 weeks before her death. She was leaving him. She'd saved £700, hidden in a drawer. She was going to be free of him. It is alleged that she had met somebody else, and whether she was going to have a life with them, I don't know. And she was confident that it was over. She returned to England, ready to prepare to start her new life.
But before Micah could move on without Jonathan in her life, events conspired to stop her in her tracks on the night of the 29th of April.
She'd been working at the local pub, and she came home sometime around 11:30, 12 o'clock.
Phone analysis from that evening reveals that Jonathan had become more and more irate as the evening wore on. and was continually asking where Micah was in text messages.
It transpired in court that after Jonathan had killed Micah, he dragged her body to a compost heap in the garden and left her there while he worked out how to dispose of her body. I believe she was behind the shed and he covered her body in grass cuttings. Everyone was around and that is where she lay.
On the next day, Cuthbert has then got rid of her handbag and phone off the end of the pier and bought some cleaning up materials from a local shop.
And then he loaded Micah's body into the back of the car and drove her off to the field where he disposed of her.
The following morning, Jonathan calls the police to report Micah missing.
Kent Police, where's your emergency?
It's my wife. She walked out early hours Wednesday morning. She ain't been back since.
So is she vulnerable in any way?
No, but she has been a bit down lately.
Okay.
The extent that Jonathan had gone to conceal the fact that he had taken Micah's life. He'd tried to cover his tracks by sending messages to her friends. I get the feeling from this behaviour that it's very calculated, it's cold, and it shows no remorse.
During a grueling trial at Canterbury Crown Court, the evidence against Jonathan appears overwhelming. A sustained, brutal attack on Micah, covering his tracks by disposing of Micah's body and her belongings, as well as a checkered history of past relationships. The jury retires to consider its verdict. Jonathan is found not guilty of Micah Cudworth's murder.
We were so surprised. We thought that there'd been such a strong case for murder against Jonathan, and to find out that he'd been found guilty of the lesser charge of manslaughter.
As he admitted to stabbing and killing his wife before the trial, the jury accepts his version of events, that of killing her through diminished responsibility.
I think Mr. Cudworth was an extremely lucky person to get off a murder charge. Very lucky, I think, because I've seen cases where, similar sort of things, and jury come back guilty of murder.
With the lesser conviction of manslaughter, Jonathan is sentenced to 15 years in prison.
It's appalling. It is appalling. How can her life be worth 15 years? How do we stop this? How do we deter people from going that far? We need stricter sentences. A life should mean life.
Even with the case behind them, the local community still feel the impact of Micah's death.
The sad thing with an event like this is it just has really horrible consequences for everybody. For the families trying to move forward in this situation, and it leaves a scar on the community.
It's her resting place, isn't it? It's not ideal. I know her final resting place is now in Poland, as it should be, but it's where her story ended, isn't it? And it should never have been that way. She didn't deserve this. Regardless of whether or not she was leaving him, regardless of whether or not she was dating somebody else, the penalty that she paid was atrocious. And it will stay with us, it will stay with me. It's an absolute tragedy, and it's a tragedy for our community.
A sadistic and brutal murder. Residents were terrified.
This poor woman was covered head to foot in bruises.
And burn marks applied with a domestic iron.
It was just shocking. There's no other word for it.
He was a manipulative psychopath. He is a very dangerous individual.
She described him as a monster.
He's shown no remorse or no responsibility.
That level of evil demonstrates that he's a danger to any woman.
Just south of Derby city centre lies the bustling former village of Normanton.
It's a very multicultural area. People from all different parts of the world live there.
It really embraces diversity. I think at one time there was over 100 different languages and dialects spoken within that area.
It's also quite a close-knit community. A lot of people sort of know each other. Families tend to live quite close to each other, and they socialise in family and friend circles.
There's a lot of families that have lived there for many years, and as a consequence of that, people know each other's business and they're there to support each other when things might not go so well.
The communities sort of live together and work together. It does feel like a village in that environment.
It's somewhere that's always very, very busy, very, very vibrant, and there's always a lot of people on the streets, no matter what time of day it is.
In the heart of Normanton is Pear Tree Crescent.
Pear Tree Crescent has a distinct feel about it, and with it being on a crescent, it's quite contained. Families know their neighbours, and it's not a through road, so it's probably quite a quiet crescent without busy traffic going through it. So it's easy to see how it might have a community feel about it.
But life in this little backwater is about to change forever.
Emergency service.
The police received a call to say there'd been an incident in Normanton.
The report is in relation to an address on Pear Tree Crescent.
A man said that there was a body in the house.
So immediately the police were put into place. An immediate response to go to the address might be that they are not dead. So one of the fundamentals of policing is around protecting life.
Police go to the address on Pear Tree Crescent. They try to gain entry to the address, but there's no reply there, so the decision's made to force entry. They force the front door because they're concerned about the safety of the people that may be inside the address. Once inside the address, they go upstairs and they enter the bathroom.
They found the body of a female in the bath.
The young woman is Asian and in her late 30s.
They find her in an unusual position. She is sat in the bath, she has got a towel over her, and she's got a shower curtain over her as well.
The shower rail had been pulled down and was lying on top of her or very close to her body in the bath.
And it was very quickly ascertained that she was dead.
And it was quite obvious to them that she had suffered catastrophic injuries.
This poor woman was covered head to foot in bruises. It was horrific, dreadful.
She has been savagely beaten around the head, face and limbs.
They will have been very quickly aware of the types of injuries that had occurred, and that, you know, to all intents and purposes, this wasn't a natural death. You know, it had been the subject of a violent assault.
And that this was a sadistic and brutal murder, and not just any other murder.
What the police did notice when they went into the bathroom was that the lock on the door was forced.
And I think that the police would have been weighing up the possibility that she had been trying to run away from her attacker.
She has been trying to seek refuge. She's tried to find a place in the house where she could go, where she could lock the door, and hopefully help would come.
Police descended on the street. They came from a number of police stations within just a couple of miles of the scene, cordoned off the road. I vividly remember forensics were on the scene extremely quickly. Residents were told to stay indoors. They were completely stunned and shocked by what had happened.
The scenes of crimes officers come in, unpeeling the layers of the crime scene, whether that's fingerprints, whether that's DNA. Things like the shower curtain would have been collected and bagged and tagged, taken away for further examination, etc., working through the crime scene.
As investigators carry out house-to-house inquiries, the top priority for police is to get a name for the victim.
It's the police who should be going and finding the family of that person and telling them their loved ones has passed away. What you can't do is allow social media or any other method of that person's name getting out before the family knows. It's incumbent on the police to get that identity at the earliest opportunity.
The woman identified as living at the property is 37-year-old Sobia Khan.
I have a general recollection that she was, by all accounts, a terrific woman.
She was from Bradford. She had moved to Derby in the previous weeks.
She's worked with children for 4 years in Bradford, for young kids, as a play worker.
She was a very friendly, very kind and polite woman, having spoken to those people around her. She loved children. She had a huge passion for her job, had absolutely everything to live for.
A very bright, very intelligent young woman, but she was very family orientated as well.
Sobia was loved and adored by her family. Her brother described her as the light of the family. She didn't have any children, but played a massive part in the lives of the children in the family and also those older members, and almost acted like the glue of the family. She brought a lot of people together and brought joy and happiness to those other people in her life.
And I think one of her life goals was to have children and, you know, to have a family of her own.
In a heartbreaking way, that was cut tragically short.
News of the murder comes on one of the holiest days for local Muslims, the beginning of Ramadan.
Residents were terrified. This is a sort of peaceful street in Normanton. It's quite well-to-do, quite respected street. And I just remember them being absolutely shocked by what's unfolding in front of them.
In Normanton, it would probably have the same effect as anywhere else. The community are justifiably shocked and, to an element, scared as well. But I think it's like a lot of communities where this type of crime takes place, that the communities kind of come together and rally round.
You don't get anything of this magnitude in Normanton, barely ever. Something of this scale, something this unique is extremely rare.
The body is carefully removed and sent for a post-mortem.
The pathology report was horrendous and painted a picture of the most brutal murder possible. There was 36 injuries all over her body. It was clear multiple weapons had been used.
And these injuries haven't been inflicted in one go. They've been inflicted over a period of time. They involve burn marks, which are consistent with being applied with a domestic iron. There are marks where Sobia's been hit with an implement. There's also blunt force trauma, which is feet and fists.
It was a very prolonged and systematic attack. It wasn't something that was very instantaneous, so this had been going on for some time.
Which must have been an absolutely awful experience to undergo. Just a terrible, terrifying ordeal that she's been put through.
The precise cause of death, as far as I can remember, was not ascertainable. She died from her injuries, this poor woman.
The type of person responsible for something like this is evil, sadistic, and without any humanity.
It was just shocking. There's no other word for it. It was just shocking. It was horrific.
In order to track this brutal killer, investigators continue to comb for clues left at the scene.
Police will try to work out exactly what had happened to Sobia, and a murder weapon or weapons would have been high on their priority.
The physical search of the property is really successful. There's a couple of items that are found early on which are really helpful to the inquiry. There is a rod that is found down the back of a radiator. There is a piece of wood that looks like it may have been from a coat hanger.
Which It was suggested was responsible for some of the injuries that she sustained.
As part of their search, police found a domestic iron that was found in a wheelie bin at the rear of the property.
And this is consistent with some of the burn injuries, and the distinctive shape of the iron matches the injuries that Sobia has on her body. So the next concern for the police is who is the perpetrator for this. And the worrying thing is for the police at this point is that somebody may have committed a murder and they're out in the public and they're free to go and do whatever it is that they want to. If they want to flee, if they want to destroy evidence. So there's a real sense of urgency now to try and establish who the perpetrator is and get them under arrest at the earliest opportunity.
Investigators trace Sobia's extended family who live nearby.
They speak to a man who is there. And it turns out that this man is the person who called the emergency services and tells them that an incident has taken place on Pear Tree Crescent. He tells the police that his brother had confessed to murdering Sobia Khan. He is Sobia's husband, Atwal Mustafa.
In Normanton, Derbyshire, 37-year-old Sobia Khan has been found at home in her bath, beaten to death. Police need to trace her husband, Atwal Mustafa, urgently. He hasn't been seen since.
By this point, police have interviewed at length and thoroughly family members, and they would have concluded that Atwal Mustafa is the prime suspect. When I saw the photo, I sat there and I remember looking at it on my computer screen thinking, here is a woman who looks free, who looks happy, who looks joyful, who's got a whole future ahead of her.
Her family says Sobia is considered very vibrant and outgoing. She's very keen on social media and socialising.
And that was not the sort of account that residents were giving me who were living nearby the house. That was not the sort of life that they had seen her live.
Investigators put Atwal and Sobia's married life together under the microscope.
They established from the family that Atwal had met Sobia in and around May 2016. It was around that time that she said that she'd met somebody and wanted to get married.
And she wanted to leave the family home at Bradford and go and relocate at Derby to be with this person. This came as huge news to Sobia's family. They'd never met who this person was. They didn't know where he lived, what he did. And although they were happy for her, they were also very cautious as well, because they cared about her and they wanted to make sure that she was going into a supportive relationship, and they just didn't have that information immediately available to them.
During their courtship, Atwal decides to meet Sobia's family in Bradford. But bizarrely, he does so undercover, posing as a social worker.
He turns up, identifies himself as Asif, and quite quickly, Sobia's brother starts to become suspicious of this man and wonders whether he is who he actually says he is.
I think what Mustafa was doing was using this as a ruse to try and check on the family, to see what sort of people they were.
He was very kind of secretive in terms of his background and who he was.
Sobia's family in the days after put two and two together and realised that this man was not a social worker and was actually in a relationship with her. And I think that certainly gave them great concern and worry. This was not something that she had done before, and I think it sparked a lot of fear among her family members that this was a path that she was going down.
And as a police officer, I then start to question, why would this person invent such an account to try and find out about another family in such a secretive, clandestine way? It does make you wonder what his motives are for this.
A few months later, in August 2016, Atwell tries to make his intentions towards Sobia clear.
What Atwell does is he arranges then for his family in Derby to travel to Bradford to meet Sobia's family. And again, this is all part of the two families getting to know each other.
Mustafa travelled with the intention of trying to get their approval for marriage plans, and he basically came with gifts to try and woo them and persuade them, and he would do anything he could to try and get what he wanted.
He continued to court the family, to ingratiate himself within that family environment and win people over.
But Sobia's family remain unimpressed with her new suitor.
Sobia's family warned her that this was a terrible idea, and they tried their absolute best to say that going to Derby was a bad idea and that this man was not right for her. Unfortunately, she would not accept this and did not believe it.
Time passes by and we are into April 2017, and Sobia contacts her friend who's a beautician, and she tells her the great news that she's going to be getting married and she's looking to book some treatments. So it seems to be quite an exciting time for her. On the 19th of April 2017, Mustafa collects Sobia from Bradford and he takes her to Derby and they move in together.
When they came to get married at their home in Derby, there was hardly anybody there. The imam was a friend of Mustafa. It's clear that the ceremony was a sham.
It was a very small ceremony. It was very informal, probably not the sort of wedding that she had dreamed of. Her family were not there.
And there's a considerable doubt whether it can properly be described as a marriage. But she may well have believed that they were actually married because of this ceremony that he'd set up.
It was hidden, it was done very quickly, almost a feel to get the ceremony over with.
I think it was also a way of exerting control over her, telling her that she was now beholden to her husband. It seems that he suggested to Sobia that when she joined him in Derby, she would become completely isolated from family and friends. It was clear that he wanted her relationship to be solely with him, and he was going to cut her off from the family.
Just a day after the marriage, all of her social media profiles were deleted.
And it's clear that this was his ongoing attempt and decision to isolate her completely, both physically and virtually, from her family and friends. She was quite a gregarious, outgoing, independent-minded person. So this points to the degree of control and manipulation that he was able to exert.
She finds herself in a strange city without that support network around her, and this is a really worrying event in the timeline.
Police uncover records of something even more sinister, which occurred that same day.
Sobia presented at the Derby Royal Infirmary with abdominal pains.
There's no indication as to what that was, but I think there's certainly a fear that this was the start of a campaign of domestic abuse that she had started to suffer.
On the 1st of May, we see yet another worrying turn in this saga. Sobia phones her family up and confesses that she's been having an affair. Now, her family aren't entirely convinced about this phone call, and what it seems is that somebody's in the background telling her exactly what to say. Bizarrely, a few moments after this phone call has taken place, Mustafa then phones up. He says it was all a joke and he's forgiven her and there's actually no problems. These clearly aren't the normal things to do during the course of a normal relationship. It really starts to demonstrate a pattern of controlling behaviour.
2 days later, Mustafa and Sobia went to Bradford to see her family, and they were shocked when she walked in the house. She was wearing a full veil, a niqab, and hands and face were completely covered. This was something they'd never seen before. They didn't see it in their own family. She was very westernized, so this was really, really out of character.
This is a very, very different person, and it is quite clear that Mustafa has now got absolute control.
Sobia then disappears off the face of the earth until her brother receives a disturbing phone call.
Sobia calls her brother up, then starts accusing him of inappropriate behaviour when they were both children. Now, this has never taken place, and it's almost like Sobia's reading from a script, and that Mustafa's in the background and she is just going through the motions of doing exactly what he wants her to say.
Sobia's brother, during that call, got really, really angry to the point where he just threw the phone and said, "I'm not having this conversation."
She was clearly saying this, again, under coercion from Mustafa. And this seems to be a pattern where he is using her to make accusations against her family, a further attempt to split her off from her family. And again, it's an expression of his sadistic, aggressive behaviour to make her even more isolated and under his power and control.
Mustafa's own family tell investigators about the morning they discovered Sobia was dead.
His mum said that she was terrified as to what Mustafa had done. He had come to her door and had asked her to come back to his house. She locked the door and did not want to go. His family members were telling her, "Do not go," which I think is very disturbing that was going through their mind, and gives you an indication as to what they know this man is capable of.
But Mustafa persuades his mother to get in the car.
The mother goes to Petrie Crescent, and she's directed upstairs.
And so she went up to the bathroom, not really knowing what to expect.
And sees Sobia in the bath. She said to Sobia, "Why are you taking a bath at this time?"
She asks her if she's all right, and it's at that point that she realises she's not conscious.
And there was Sobia lying covered, head to foot in injuries.
And then she realised she was dead. Mustafa's mum confronted him and said, "Why have you killed her?" And he denied it. He claimed that she was just unconscious. She did not believe it. She knew what he had done. And she said, "You have killed her."
Atwell's mum breaks the news to his brother, who in turn calls the police. When interviewed by detectives, Mustafa's family reveal he could be hiding out at his uncle's house.
They tell police that it's an address that he may frequent. And that leads the police pretty quickly to go and visit that address. And they find Mustafa there, and they arrest him for murder.
In Normanton, Derbyshire, Atwell Mustafa has been arrested on suspicion of the murder of his newlywed wife, Sobia Khan. Police examine her husband's movements in the last 24 hours before his arrest.
So what the investigation discovered subsequently is that Mustafa, from his relative's house, has used a mobile phone to contact his solicitor. He's then discarded that mobile phone, which is perhaps an indication of his intent to evade capture.
And then he's bought flights to Pakistan, clearly with the intention of fleeing the country and escaping the jurisdiction in the hope that he can evade justice.
And he finally phoned an ambulance to try and get what he said was help. I believe this was a cynical and twisted ploy to try and avoid responsibility for what he had done and cover his tracks.
The good thing that we have at this point is the person that the police believe to be the perpetrator is in custody, so any ongoing risk to the public is mitigated. But they're also under a lot of pressure now, because there's only so long that you can keep somebody in custody and interview them and start to build your case.
Investigators uncover that Atwell Mustafa has a sinister history.
He was, in fact, a psychiatric patient currently under psychiatric care and supervision who had previously carried out a serious offence.
They would have found an incredibly horrific case from 2008. This would have rang massive alarm bells.
Mustafa holds an ex-partner captive in his home for 4 days.
She was assaulted, raped, her underwear was set on fire while she was wearing it.
He tortured her. He did some horrendous acts to her.
He completely abused this woman. He repeatedly beat her. He shaved off her hair, he shaved off her eyebrows.
He mutilated her. He caused a wide range of injuries to her that were truly horrific.
All of this was while he was accusing her of falsely having an affair. It was an absolutely horrific campaign of domestic abuse on a truly savage scale.
She finally managed to escape from him. She ran to a shop where the police were called and he was arrested. This sadistic assault, which included a sexual assault, bore striking similarities to the subsequent assault and murder of Sobia 9 years later.
Mustafa's arrested in 2008. The police investigation progresses and he goes to court charged with grievous bodily harm and rape as well. Mustafa pleads guilty to the grievous bodily harm.
He said that she had in fact provoked him and that he had been justified in attacking her.
But he denies the rape, so the case has to go to trial. And thankfully, he's subsequently convicted of those rapes. He's found guilty.
I spoke to his former partner and a support worker on her behalf on the day that he was sentenced. And it was clear, completely clear, that what he had done to her had devastated her life, had destroyed her, and had had a profound and disturbing impact on everything around her.
So again, during this investigation, there's the parallels between 2008 and 2017. You have this controlling, coercive behaviour where Mustafa is accusing his partner back in 2008 of being unfaithful, about having affairs. And this is the same behaviour that's then repeated in 2016, 2017 with Sobia. And this is a really worrying development when the police find this, because he's done this before.
And it seems at the time of his sentencing, Mustafa has a trick up his sleeve.
Following his conviction, Mustafa started to display psychiatric symptoms, none of which had been evident prior to the offences. He had no psychiatric history, but he managed to persuade psychiatrists that he was suffering from paranoid schizophrenia, as a result of which he was not sentenced to prison and he was admitted to a secure psychiatric hospital rather than being imprisoned. This meant that his care was now under the supervision of psychiatrists and he could be released after his mental illness, if he had one, had improved without any need to go back to prison.
At the secure unit in Nottinghamshire, Mustafa starts planning his path to freedom.
Quite early on, you start to see the seeds of what is manipulative behaviour there. You start to see that he's trying to ingratiate himself to staff, he's buying gifts, and he's mainly trying to portray this image of being a model patient.
He started to do some work on the farm shop there, and he felt that this was a way to try and sort of reintegrate in society and come across as a sort of normal, ordinary guy and actually hide his true nature.
And again, this is all about him trying to prove to the staff that he can be trusted, that he can go and interact with members of the community, and in actual fact, he presents no risk whatsoever.
Mustafa is moved to a lower security unit in Derby to start a sex offenders treatment program, which was a requirement of his sentence.
He was moved nearer his home, where he manipulated the system again by suggesting that he had already carried out treatment programs which he had not done.
He was supposed to take a program for sex offenders. Somehow he managed not to do that. He hoodwinked the system and got out of it.
He's probably 25 minutes walk from his home address on Pear Tree Crescent, so he's getting even closer to his home, and he's managing to convince the people around him that he's no longer a risk.
His escorted leave, where he goes out with staff, is changed to unescorted, so he's allowed out on his own, ostensibly to go to Friday prayers. So again, he's manipulating the system. He's persuading staff to let him out unescorted because they believe that he's no longer showing any symptoms of illness, whereas in fact, he still remains a dangerous, psychopathic, personality disordered individual.
Atwell's unescorted leave is meant to be spent with his family, but left to his own devices at home, he has other plans.
He had formed a clandestine relationship with a member of staff who was there to look after him. This was strictly against the rules that he had been set because he was supposed to inform the authorities of any relationships that he was forming.
And it was following her disclosing to her employers that she'd had this relationship. She also identified his aggressive tendencies, his manipulative, his threatening behaviours.
With the healthcare professional, he tells her that her phone is bugged. He threatens violence. He seeks to control her. It's really coercive behaviour, and it's brought about by this jealousy that he seems to have.
It would have meant the end of her job, but such was her fear and the level of control that Mustafa had started to wield over her, she felt she had no choice but to come clean.
The healthcare assistant is fired for gross misconduct, and Mustafa spreads unfounded allegations of inappropriate behaviour with other patients.
But interestingly, again, what he was able to do is manipulate his position in that relationship to demonstrate that he was the victim.
These are massive parallels between what he had done with Sobia. It was just a pack of lies, and it was deceitful, and he was hiding the truth and using any way he could to do that.
Mustafa is discharged just months before meeting Sobia. In spite of an order to inform the authorities of any new relationships, he fails to do so. As detectives build their case against their suspect, they uncover more damning evidence.
As part of the police investigation, they found a recording on Mustafa's phone from the 18th of April.
The conversation was between Atwell or Mustafa and Sobia, and within that conversation, he was saying how she was stupid, she, wasn't intelligent, really belittling her.
He'd been incredibly nasty and abusive towards her intellect and her family, and this was an important piece of evidence.
The recording is dated just 4 days before their wedding.
This, I think, is a disturbing insight into what he is like as a person and shows the sort of control and dominance and violence that he's later uses and was using at the time.
Investigators also uncover more worrying information in police records.
In October 2016, the police receive a safeguarding referral And this referral is in relation to a young girl who fears that she will be victim of honour-based violence with respect to her uncle. And this uncle is Mustafa.
Detectives bring together all their findings on Mustafa.
The investigation team managed to get together a compelling case at this early stage. There is good witness evidence, there is good circumstantial evidence, and what they're able to do is convince the Crown Prosecution Service to charge Mustafa with murder.
Atwell Mustafa has been charged with the murder of his newly wedded wife Sobia Khan at their home in Normanton, Derbyshire.
So following his arrest and charge, Mustafa was remanded into HM Prison Nottingham, where he started to show very bizarre behaviour, because he was trying to get himself transferred to a psychiatric hospital, and he was trying to lay the groundwork for a psychiatric defence. He knew the system, and he wanted to try and plead guilty to manslaughter on the grounds of diminished responsibility, claiming that he was mentally ill at the time, rather than be convicted of murder.
And a couple of months later, at his first court appearance, he pleaded not guilty to that murder.
Forensic psychiatrist Philip Joseph is asked to prepare a psychiatric report on Mustafa for the prosecution.
I was instructed by the Crown Prosecution Service to go and interview the defendant at the prison in order to determine whether there are any psychiatric factors which were implicated in the commission of the alleged offence. When I first met Mustafa, he told me that he hadn't expected a visit from me, although this had been organised with the prison authorities and his solicitor. And he then suggested that he remembered me from 2008, which was not correct, and may have been his attempt to give the impression that he was rather confused about the situation. He did, however, present as quite calm and cooperative, although later he appeared to be very distressed. For example, he was begging me to allow him to go to Sobia's funeral with what appeared to me not at all genuine distress. I felt very strongly that he was attempting to manipulate me as well and present himself as a mentally ill, harmless victim of the situation. When I interviewed him, he was at pains to suggest that Sobia was the one who was making the running in the relationship. She had suggested they get married. She had wanted him to meet her family, and she was totally in control of the relationship, and he was going along with it. Mustafa told me that in the period leading up to the killing, he was quite upset at Sobia's behaviour, the fact she was going online and talking to other men, that at times he didn't know whether he was taking his medication or not. Sometimes he forgot, and he even suggested that Sobia had advised him to stop it, which is highly unlikely.
Mustafa also claims he suffered amnesia on the day of Sobia's murder.
So he told me he had no memory of killing her, but he does appear to remember things that put him in a better light. For example, that a man had come to the house whom he believed his wife was having an affair with, and also a memory of calling an ambulance. This selective memory also suggests that the amnesia is not genuine. I formed the opinion that he was a manipulative, dangerous, sadistic psychopath who was prone to excessive jealousy when in a possessive, controlling relationship with a woman. I was fairly confident that he was not mentally ill at the time of the killing, that he had never suffered from schizophrenia, and that he had no psychiatric defence to a charge of murder.
The trial finally begins against Atwell Mustafa. He continues to plead not guilty to Sobia's murder on the grounds of diminished responsibility.
The first day of the trial at Derby Crown Court was truly harrowing. The full scale of the abuse that Sobia had suffered was laid out at the prosecution opening of the trial. I vividly remember the victim's family attended court and had to listen to all of that harrowing detail. And it was truly shocking what had happened.
The jury's taken through the 30-plus injuries and torture that Sobia suffered, including the burn marks meted out on her body with an iron.
My first thought was, this man is a monster. The way in which he carried himself, the way in which he conducted himself with real arrogance and an air of superiority over the whole process, which I've never come across since.
Mustafa's team mounts his defence.
Mustafa tried to present a case that he wasn't fully in control of what he did.
We weren't suggesting that he hadn't committed this atrocious crime. We were suggesting, principally, that he had a serious mental problem. But the doctor for the prosecution took the view that he was not suffering from an abnormality of mental function, which provided him with a defence.
The jury went out to deliberate, and just 15 minutes later, there was an announcement on the tannoy that they had come back with a verdict. That verdict was guilty.
Atwell Mustafa is jailed for life with a minimum of 33 years.
Mustafa laughed as he walked down to the cells. He'll be 69 before ever being considered for parole.
Sobia's brother, who asked not to show his face, gives his reaction to the sentence.
I'm supposed to protect my family. I wish I could have done something to stop it from happening. But he managed to play the system, he managed to dupe these people. I'd rather them learn from this, knowing that there's people out there that can manipulate and do what he's done to my sister.
A 6-week inquest later rules there were extensive failings by the authorities managing Mustafa.
I think the impact of the murder will remain and has remained with that community for many years to come. It's one of those shocking crimes that happened on an ordinary street in an ordinary city in Great Britain, but the ramifications have been huge.